Hey guys, what is up? Public here back with another video, and today I have Mythic raid testing footage for Gnarlroot, and we'll do Agira tomorrow or soon, hopefully. Depends on when I get this out and recorded, but it's kind of a long week. But we did some Mythic testing. I wasn't able to stream this progress, was a little busy this day, but did able to get some pulls on both of these bosses. So this video we're going to talk about Gnarlroot on Mythic. This is the first boss of the raid. Honestly, pretty fun. It's way more like AoE damage than I was expecting out of a first boss. We are only scaled up to I think like 462 or something like that, so definitely like on the lower side of what I think you would start prog on in Mythic, assuming that you're clearing Heroic. But should be pretty realistic for like maybe a first kill, something like that. So yeah, definitely lots of opportunities here for AoE damage. It's kind of crappy as a Shadow Priest, to be honest with you, because, as you guys know, Shadow Crash is capped at 8 targets, and ads are coming out in some places more often than Shadow Crash's cooldown, and they're not always, like, as clumped up and grouped up as we want. So this is a little bit of frustration, I think, from a Shadow Priest perspective, just because Shadow Crash isn't quite good enough for what we want here. Nonetheless, I think it's still going to be fun. The good news is there is an extra ad inside of Mythic. So specifically, there's this Trent ad you'll see walking around that you spawn in the exact same way. You just make a fire pool, go over him, and then he spawns. This guy does way more damage. He has like a kick, I think, as well. Definitely like a priority target. So it did feel like, yeah, you can see on the meter, I'm not doing a ton of like overall AoE damage because, there's no point in like padding on those ads as a Shadow Priest, but I was still able doing pretty effective damage on the targets that matter. So specifically the boss and then those big ads that spawn. So I kind of, more or less checked out of the small ads unless I like had nothing else to do, and pretty much reserved my time to focusing on Gnarlroot and the big ads. And on both of those guys, I was doing very competitive damage. And you're effectively like, we're in this kind of weird spot with our tier set after the recent change where our like AoE damage is mostly coming from Inescapable Torment with like a side of Psychic Link. So we are still getting AoE damage on those little ads, but it's mostly just because I'm getting lots of Inescapable Torment procs and that kind of thing. So, and yeah, you can see like after the burn, I do pretty competitive damage. You can see I rose up quite a lot considering I was barely hitting the ads. So I think Shadow's going to be a great prog spec for this fight. I don't know if you're going to see it like top the meters necessarily. You could always run Idol of N'Zoth builds, but then you're going to significantly lower how much priority target and single target that you're doing. So again, on progression, probably not worth it, but I would not be surprised if you see some people take points out of like Insidious Ire or something to pick up N'Zoth or something like that. So who knows? We'll see what people end up wanting to do, but that's kind of what I'm going to guess for this boss. Now, as far as the rest of it, I mean, again, honestly, it's a pretty simple first boss here. You're kind of rotating through 2 phases, going back and forth between spawning a bunch of ads and then going into the intermission. It does seem like tuning-wise on Mythic, it's going to be pretty forgivable. We were able to kill this quite easily, I think, with our gear and our scaling. Just with the strat that we use where we're able to pull him to a wall so the ads spawn in like a more clumped up area. It is relatively like a pretty controllable boss depending on where your group goes. It's also pretty telegraphed, like exactly where the ads are before you have to go and try to spawn them. So you can see me here, I was sacking my DPS a little bit just to make sure that I had good positioning for if I got a fire circle, to make sure that I was on top of an ad. I think you'll see like when people get better at like mastering this fight, being able to do that without losing DPS is going to be really important. And I think using optimized like gateways and stuff like that, so you can just kind of full tunnel on the boss until you have to move out because you have a fire circle. And then in the intermission, like I mentioned before, it does seem a little scaled down to when we did this on Heroic. Things did not seem to be hitting quite as hard here, so I felt a little more open to be able to soak stuff. One of the differences, you actually can only break 5 roots at a time for every time that you soak, which is a difference on Mythic. On Heroic, you just got like a debuff, and you could do it for the duration of that debuff. So this one, was a little more coordinated. You have to be a little careful, especially if you're like moving out to soak. I'm almost dying a few times if I'm going out too far. But it's also going to be really important to pre-setup here in this phase. when he goes into his damage amp phase, it is like a little shorter than I think we would really ideally want for our cooldowns. I was using the 9 Moose trinket here, so we'll see kind of how that works. I think there's going to be a little bit of like cooldown planning here to like know, yep, hey, we're about to phase, let's blast the boss. So, and that is Mythic Gnarlroot. Hopefully this was fun and watching, and this was cool. We'll have a video on Agira coming out soon, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching.